All right, guys. Our next guest is back in action already. And what better place as he's the first official fight announced for UFC 284 in Perth, in the home country, when he takes on Paulo Costa on February 12th. That's the 11th for the rest of the world. The former UFC middleweight champion and current UFC hitman, as he systematically takes out everybody one by one. Australia's own Robert Whittaker. Welcome back, man. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, dude, here's the interesting thing, right? So UFC 281 with Israel and Alex is happening just around the corner, and you kind of could have waited to see the result, but you chose to take this fight instead. So, like, take us into your mindset, man. Like, why accept the fight straight away in case of maybe potentially waiting it out and then seeing what happens?
Honestly, I like to try and get 3 fights a year. You know, that's the number I try to aim for. And due to having to wait for the things that were going around in New Zealand and having to wait for that title shot with Israel at the beginning of the year, I only got 2 fights in last year. So I don't know. I just, the idea of waiting and sitting on the sidelines just doesn't sit well with me. You know, I had to push back the Vettori fight as well, and that didn't sit well with me either. And mate, I just want to fight. It's what I'm there to do. It's what I'm there to. It's what I'm here for. It's my job. It's what the fans want. And honestly, like Perth, you know, Perth was announced to fight in Perth. You know, hopping a skip from my home, and everything just made sense for me.
Dude, yeah, that's the crazy thing about Perth, right? People don't know, but people do know, but you were supposed to obviously fight Rockhold back in 2018, and that obviously didn't pan out. I am wondering, like, how does it feel to kind of, finally get a chance to go back to Perth? Do you feel like you're kind of almost getting closure? You know, for so many, like, I think everyone knew at some point the UFC is going to come to Perth, but scheduling conflicts, all sorts of stuff. When you got the opportunity, were you like, what was the feeling?
Yeah, it's I don't let those things, sit too long in my mind. Otherwise, they're driving me crazy because, they're things that are beyond my control. But it is a little bit extra satisfying to finally be in a position where I can give back to the fans and to Perth itself for having a date that I had to rain check.
Yeah, I remember whenever I think of UFC Perth, I remember Luke Rockhold riding a camel. And the camel being like really unhappy about it, and then like trying to throw him off, and we're all like, "Oh no! We don't need Luke Rockhold falling off the back of this camel. That's the last thing we need right now." And,
is that really what you remember? I remember Romero being slack, and starching the poor guy.
Was that the one where Yoel Romero did the dancing as well at the open workout?
That's the one where he kissed him afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Landed the missile, kissed him on the face. Bit of an I love you, boy. A little bit more salsa dancing beforehand, it would have made the weight,
I'll tell you what, it's like looking back on The Hangover, looking back through old photos, be like, did that really happen? I can't believe some of this stuff went down. So, dude, I got to ask, like, Paulo Costa, he's obviously quite a big name in the UFC. Like, he's really grown his brand since his last win. He's kind of like a guy that a lot of media love to sort of interview. He's a bit of a character. How did he sort of come about as the opponent for you? And what was your reaction when you kind of saw him as, potentially this next guy to fight at Perth?
Honestly, they just asked me and I said yes. So, there wasn't a lot of thought process behind it. And the only real thing that I can give insight to is my thought process, and who else is there to fight? It's I'm running out of names, so I just thought I'd keep myself busy. The fact that it's in Perth and I get to fight with an Australian crowd, and I can go so much later than usual than I'm used to. It just all added up to me saying, this is a great fight.
Yeah. Okay. But before we get stuck into Paulo, I just want to explore some of the other things. I know you don't get into the whole, management side of things. You just fight like a hitman really does, right? But were there any other names sort of thrown in the mix at all?
No, not that I know of. Like we weren't really talking. There was no discussions. Like when I mentioned it before, that's literally how it happened. They just offered me a name, and I said yes. That's it. Like, that's as far as the conversation went.
Because
Wow.
obviously talks with my side of the fence were okay. Logically, here are the ideas, which is like wait till Israel and thing fight and see where the chips fall on that, X, Y, Z. But like I said, I need to give myself direction. I like objectives, and everything made sense for me to go ahead with this fight.
Okay, good. And the reason why is because I know it wasn't that long ago that Khamzat Chimaev was teasing up a move to middleweight, and people were like, all right, who would make sense for him? And it's like maybe Paulo, maybe Rob. I know that you guys are basically besties at this point, but I wanted to sort of rule it out if that was a name that was offered to you at all or anything, floated. Not at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. But also, like, we're friends now.
Yeah.
I would say friends with him. Like, fighting him looks worse than training with him. So I want to train with him.
I imagine training with him would be an experience much like fighting him. What do you think the most beneficial thing would be about training with a guy like Khamzat?
Oh, he's just, I think, I don't know him personally, like his character or anything like that, but skill-wise and the skill sets he brings into the octagon when he fights, they're very high caliber, high tier, and I am a believer that iron sharpens iron. And if me and him got together and started, working on our skill sets and mentalities, like, I don't know, it's a scary prospect, isn't it?
I know. You, Khamzat, Darren Till, all just hunting bad guys. I can see
That's
now.
it.
Because he's the guy, like, he's known for his, work ethic, and as are you. So I feel like you guys could just push each other to, I don't want to say next level because you have a phenomenal training camp at Smeaton Grange and stuff. But I think as MMA fans, we fantasize about this kind of stuff, Rob, Khamzat.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not going to rule it out. I think, there's all possibility in the world at this point that I could one day get together with him and train.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, man, just quickly before we get off him, I think there's a few rumors floating around about him fighting Colby Covington next. And that's just like, I know you do a great job on Fox Sports breaking down fights and stuff and previewing them. I just want to get your quick take on that one. What a fascinating fight for the welterweight division, Colby Covington versus Khamzat. But also Covington, man, he's so damn good. I just wonder, like, when you think about that fight initially, what kind of, I guess, what goes through your mind when you see those guys clashing? No,
well, if we look at it media-wise, I think it'll be a spectacle.
Yeah,
expect the full circus. And that'll be fun in itself. Those things. Whilst I don't like prioritizing them in the sport as a sportsman and as someone in the industry, if for the sport and for the UFC as a whole, like having those characters, those personalities and things, like it just brings eyes. It's just great for all the other athletes, within reason.
Yeah.
Within reason.
Yeah.
Now, stylistically, fight-wise, I think that's a terrible fight for Colby. Terrible. Because you saw with Usman that anyone Colby can't just relentlessly spam takedowns on, it becomes a kickboxing fight and a striking match. And I think Covington's great at what he does, but he's not a kickboxer. He's not a striker by trade. That doesn't come naturally to him. His pressure style and wrestling style is what comes naturally to him. Khamzat can counter wrestle Colby. He's a big dude with long range and a lot of reach, and his striking is quite, it's nothing ridiculously crazy, but it's put together like at a high level, and he integrates that with the threat of his wrestling and grappling and takedowns like stupendously. So for them, I think Khamzat for Colby is a bad matchup.
I think a lot of people look at it that way. The curiosity factor for me is if it's 5 rounds, I just wonder what it would look like if it gets in the later rounds with, Khamzat and just like the way he goes in like a bull in a china shop. Do you think 5 rounds makes a difference in any way?
Well, you see, I think like Khamzat going in like a bull in a china shop, as you said, is I think that's due to the fact that it's more about the people he's fighting. Right? I don't. Like, he's a smart guy, and he's And his fight IQ is very high. You can see that regardless of how he portrays himself. He is a smart guy when he's in there. And so he knows who he can unload on and pull the trigger and who he cannot. I think, I would back Khamzat for sure. I think it's a bad matchup for Colby.
Okay. And then just going back to you, we're still in this process of figuring out how this all came together with Paulo Costa. I have to detour a little bit. Jai Opetaia, man. What exactly happened there? A lot of our US listeners maybe won't know the story here. So for everybody, who may not understand, tell us, how did that even come about that the two of you were being talked about potentially having a $5 million fight?
Mate, can I just say, I don't even know what you're talking about.
You don't know? What do you mean?
I've heard whispers, but mate, all of that is fake news. Unless Titus was talking to somebody that I wasn't privy to or something like that. It wasn't even a conversation that came up.
Really? Because obviously everybody was reporting on it. And I think, like, from the outside, we were looking at it and going, like, fuck, I'd like to see Rob get $2 million. That'd be fantastic. But then everyone was a bit like...
I would like to see Rob get $2 million.
Yeah. But then, so everyone was kind of like, well, I think we know how the UFC would sort of feel about that one. But so what exactly happened? Was it just, I don't know, like their camp saying things that they're wishing would happen?
Yeah, I guess. Honestly, I can't really speak on it too much.
Okay, but Titus never came to you. Your manager was like, "Hey, Rob, we got something cooking." Just wasn't even a thing.
No, not that I know of.
Huh.
Not that I know of. But in saying that, like, I know I've trained with Jai. I'd like to consider we're friends. If they're offering us $5 million to punch on, I'm sure we'd both jump at the opportunity. As friends should.
Yeah.
And I think it'd be like a great fight. I think I'd take a lot from the camp preparing for the fight itself. I think the fight itself would be ridiculously hard. But that's a challenge that I'm willing to undertake. It's wait and see. I'm not going to rule it out. Jai's still a young fella as well, so one day maybe.
Well, dude, I know how much you relish challenges and sort of taking out the best in the division. So let's get back onto Paulo Costa, because for a really long time now, he's sort of been seen as a tough out for anybody in the division. I just wonder, like, just in general, how do you feel about being able to sort of take him on and go up against another guy that a lot of people felt like at certain points in his run in the UFC was one of the more challenging guys in the division, especially to put away and stop?
Yeah, I think he's a tough guy, and I'm taking this fight with all the respect that I do every other fight. I'm going to go in there in February, the best version of myself, and I think the best version of myself is better than everybody else in the division. I think skill-wise, I'm better than Paulo across the board. He probably benches more than me, but my bench isn't crazy anyway.
Eats more liver? Do you eat liver?
I don't eat liver. It's I don't like cold food. Yeah. I don't. It's not the fact that it's raw; it's just that it's cold. He definitely eats more liver than I do. But I think I have the opportunity to show to give a good accounting of my skill set, to take the fight wherever I want, and to dictate the pace.
I am curious, how would you sort of describe Paulo and like the danger that he brings, but then also the kind of odd out of cage antics that he's showed over the years?
I don't follow him on his platforms for obvious reasons. Yeah. But from what I've gathered, like he's really just sat into the character of he's not like, he's just cringy. Is that like tries to? He's just, I don't know. He's just be silly. I don't hate that take on the. I don't hate that character. It's not hurting anybody. And as a fight, he's I think he's very well rounded. He's a very, very well rounded. He and obviously he's an athlete, a specimen. He can, he's got a lot of power and torque and explosiveness. So, but I'd like to think I'm all of those things as well, and better. I just think I'm better, flat better, and I'm gonna train everything that I have over the next 17 weeks and to put him away.
How do we feel about the secret juice?
The secret juice.
Have you seen much about this?
I've seen it. I have seen it. It's the only thing that I can think of is like, get a better label, bro. it's like you just screw it on some paper and sticky tape it to the bottle. It's like his secret juice production facility is on a fucking hard budget. They're making like top of the range gear, but they're like labels. No, we have
because all of the budget goes on the juice itself. There's just nothing left for the labels.
Can't get a label in there.
I'm picturing some Avengers level like villain in a high-tech lab facility where people are teleporting and they're just making this, but then it's like, oh, how do we label it? What do we know? Oh, we'll just put this on, it'll be fine. Here you go, Paul. You got a pen? Yeah, I got a pen.
Anybody has Space Jam, isn't it?
Yeah. Here's what's fascinating though about Paulo, right? And I want to get your take, because he used to have that aura about him back in the division in 2020. I remember talking to you before the Israel fight. And, some people were like, man, he might be able to, take Israel, and, what if he becomes champion? But then he had that Israel fight and perceptions change. And then he obviously missed weight spectacularly against Marvin Vettori and ended up losing that fight. And even in the Rockhold fight, he was in way better shape. But then he also, got tagged multiple times. I'm curious if your perception on him has changed anyway, like as a fighter, say from 2020.
Definitely. Now, I don't think my perception was wrong when I gave it the first time. Okay, because what he would do is like his whole thing was getting as big as humanly possible in division, making 84, bouncing back huge, and then getting in the octagon and going ballistic. That was his thing, and that worked until it didn't, and then he lost confidence in that approach, into his explosiveness, into that berserker sort of style that we were all used to. And now, and in the Rockhold fight and in the Vettori fight, you saw a more measured version of him. Obviously, since the Vettori fight, he doubled down on making weight, and for good reason. But because of those factors, we saw a very different version of Costa.
I know we spoke about Luke retiring last time. We just you came on the show, but I just want to sort of look more at Paulo's performance in that Luke Rockhold fight. Obviously, he was able to win that fight and he had a lot of good moments, but then there are other moments where people feel like he kind of maybe in a way let Luke back into the fight, and maybe in a way didn't quite pull the trigger to finish him throughout that fight. He definitely let Luke have great moments, and that's not to say that it's not due to Luke just having the tenacity and the skill set and the ability to get back in, because he's an absolute legend himself. But I just wonder, what do you take away from that performance and that fight?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, the first thing, as you said, is that it's Luke Rockhold. He's one of the best middleweights of all time. Okay, he's up there for sure. He's in the conversation of top tier middleweights in history. Former champion. So Luke landing effective shots on Costa is no surprise. He's gonna land shots no matter who he fights, really. But in saying that, Luke himself said it as well. He didn't want to be there. He didn't want to be there. His will to fight was just not there. He was kind of just like, oh man, let's just get through this. And Costa still struggled with a Rockhold that did not want to be there.
Mm.
You know, and he was getting tagged and hit. He had a lot of openings. He had a lot of holes. So, as for what do I think of his performance in that fight? Like, I don't know. It's not great. You know, not great. Not bad, but not great.
This is the best review ever.
It's like Black Adam. Like you're reviewing Black Adam here.
Sorry, mate. It's like I think that's a very Aussie thing to say, eh?
A lot of women that I used to date, that would be their review.
It's like it's not great. It wasn't bad, but not great.
Yeah,
he was there.
Yeah, he won. You know, he won.
He won.
But
goes with the whole vernacular of mate, nah.
That's like a submission radio review of iTunes. Well, they do a show, but not great.
Great.
There are episodes out there.
Yeah.
I like to listen to Robert Whittaker, but then they're on there too.
Any concerns about the weight? I mean, he's schlepping all the way to Perth. You know, you're going all the way cross country from Sydney to Perth. Any concerns given what happened with the Vettori fight?
Not really. That's more of a him problem. It's I hope he doesn't make weight.
More money for Rob.
More money for me, and like he'll be even slower than he is. Even Speedy Boy Costa in that Rockhold fight was still slow. I'll take any advantage I can get. But I don't think we'll have that problem, especially considering like that Vettori fight and fallout from that.
Say, well, Casper said it before, you know, you're the hitman of the division. You're taking everybody out one by one. Just explain to us a little bit, like, what do you think this win over Paulo Costa? Yeah, obviously all signs point to the, you know, title shot, right? Because there's literally nobody left in the division to fight after Paulo Costa. Like, who would you even fight? I don't even know who's left.
No. So obviously, I'm not looking past this fight. I do know how hard it is, and I do know how good Costa is. You know, I will not underestimate him. But I'm gunning for that title shot. This fight will put me in that talk. So I'm just going to focus on making sure I get the W in this one.
I have to ask this though, because you know, obviously this is going to be a massive narrative in there. And obviously, like with Israel, he's spoken about how, you know, he's read this book twice and he's looking for fresh contenders. And I wonder, from your perspective, what would sort of be his incentive to take a third fight against you?
His incentive?
Yeah. Like if the UFC came to him and were like, hey, we want to do you and Rob 3, I guess what would be his incentive to say yes versus, I want to fight, you know, someone else?
It's hard to say because it's all threat. it's all threat.
You're a tough fight, Rob.
Yeah, and if you're following the trajectory of like how the first fight went and then the second fight, the third fight, you know, it's going to be a different story. It's one of those things that like I'm just earning my earning the right to get that fight, and then a fight between us, especially a third fight, is going to be absolutely monstrous. It'll be a monstrous fight. Everybody will tune in for that fight just because what we bring to it.
It's crazy, like how much you improve fight to fight. I'm sort of curious also from your opinion. Like you know best, like what you do in the gym and how you feel. How much do you feel like you've leveled up? You know, even since that fight.
Oh, massively! You could see it in the last fight. It's I took a lot of confidence from that second Adesanya fight that I lost in the first one, and you know, getting a win over Vettori the way I did as well just reinforces that confidence. Just makes me better. I just get more experience. I see what works and what does not work, and you know, for that I'm just much better.
Now, have you decided yet on whether you'll watch Israel versus Alex Pereira live? Because I know you're pretty selective on which fights you watch live. Like you're not exactly like catching all of them live. Sometimes you'll do the replays. Have you thought about it?
I'll be watching this one live. I actually think I'm watching it in a Twitch party.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, I think I am. But yeah, no, I'm definitely going to watch this one live. It has an impact.
Yeah.
And also generally when there's a middleweight title on the line, the card is quite stacked with middleweight fighters. So I can't, from the top of my head, I don't know the card, but I'm sure there'll be other middleweight fighters and killer fighters on there.
I'll let you in a secret. We don't either, Rob. I'll be honest with you. We only do so much research. It's like the secret juice budget, not enough for anything extra. What are you most curious about in that fight, though?
How the small gloves change the fight.
Yeah,
because obviously they've fought each other in kickboxing, and shots were landed on both sides, and the small gloves will change how those happen. How different that fight is from their kickboxing fight. I want to know if we're just going to see a kickboxing fight with small gloves, and how Adesanya does with the range, the reach of someone just as tall and just as rangy as he is.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. The range is going to be a big factor, and you've actually got me really curious about that. Speaking of range, if you want to add a little bit of range, add a couple of inches, best way to do that is with our good friends at Manscaped with the Lawnmower 4.0, the pound-for-pound greatest grooming tool in the world. Everybody knows if you trim the grass around a tree, the tree looks bigger, if you catch my drift. And you can do that for your boys downstairs. And Manscaped is actually taking over Australia just in time for the holidays, because you can now buy Manscaped products at Woolworths Australia retail stores. And never forget, gifting Manscaped is the ultimate hack to becoming the family favorite. So if you want to be number one pound for pound, that's the way to do it. And the lawnmower, obviously the greatest grooming tool in the world, with the ceramic blade, the skin-safe technology, the LED light. It's waterproof. You just have it hanging in the shower and you do your face, your head, your junk, whatever you want. It saves the day, gives you that confidence, and makes you a better man. They've obviously got all those other phenomenal hygiene products to make you look good, smell great, and feel amazing. Is that right, Dennis?
That's right, man. Let's cut the crap and be honest. It is the ultimate secret juice for your balls. And Manscaped has an amazing offer for everybody out there who can't get to Woolworths. You guys can get it online right now using the code word submission, 20% off and free shipping today. Code word submission, do it today and get those balls ready for a happy holiday season. And guys, with Jake Paul versus Anderson Silva around the corner, there's only one place to go to do your betting, and that is with our friends at MyBookie, who are offering you 100% match deposit when you use the code word submission. And how about this? Let's have a look at the odds real quick. Anderson Silva plus 140, Jake Paul minus 196. Which way will you guys be leaning? Make sure to share those bets with us on social media, and we'll share them on our Instagram stories. But in the meantime, use our code word submission for the match deposit, Cass.
That's right. Every week, another bloody data breach, man. All sorts of companies losing their customers' personal information and data. And also every time you surf those cheeky hentai websites, your internet service provider knows exactly what you're doing. And so do other people, even if you're in incognito mode. So hide all that, protect your data, protect your credit cards with NordVPN, a virtual private network. That way, in a simple matter of seconds, actually one click of a button, you can trick your computer into thinking that you're in a different country, different location, and it blocks trackers and it blocks anybody trying to get your data. Maybe you're downloading movies, all sorts of things. Protect yourself. And also, you can get things cheaper by using a VPN like NordVPN. You want to buy a product in a certain country, you want to maybe subscribe to a certain streaming platform or subscription service, you want to buy a certain pay-per-view. Well, guess what? Different countries have different prices. I feel like in the US, you guys pay top dollar for everything because you got a strong currency. But maybe if you change your location to, I don't know, Indonesia or something, now you're paying less for the exact same thing. Works for flights, works for a whole bunch of things. And they've got the real-time threat protection, and also doesn't slow your internet down in any way. No speed throttling and no buffering, so you can watch all that premium stuff in 4K. Isn't that right, Dennis?
That's right, man. Go to nordvpn.com/submission or click the link in the description below and get a huge discount plus 4 months free at NordVPN. It's 30 days money back guarantee. It gives you an opportunity to try it today, risk-free, and experience the goodness for yourself. But Rob, I just want to get back to UFC Perth, man, because obviously a huge main event just this past weekend. We saw Alex Volkanovski traveled all the way up to UFC 280 and challenged Islam, and now it looks like this fight is going down for the lightweight title. down here in Australia in Perth in February. Just want to get your reaction on that being the main event on your card. You know, what's it like having such a huge fight that's going to draw eyeballs not only from this part of the world but other parts as well?
Yeah, no, it's unreal. It's unreal. It's going to be an absolutely stellar card, and even the headline, you know, with the chance of becoming a double champ, it's just, you know, it's just great. It's just great for the sport, for him, for the country, for the fans. It's you know, we're just moving forward as a unit.
It's crazy because years ago, it's like as an Aussie MMA fan, you would sort of fantasize about seeing, you know, an Aussie champ and then like, you know, an Aussie champ, and it's like, you know, we're doing all these things, a small part of the world. And I don't know, it's the Anzac takeover, as they say, and it's just phenomenal to see. I am curious though, like, you know Volk better than most people, you know, from all the time you guys have done UFC Fight Week together. What do you think is the biggest thing people are overlooking about him when it comes to this Islam fight?
Just how well-rounded he is. You know, Volk's skill set's quite high level, and he's a powerful guy. I think he can control the fight a lot with his striking, and his striking takedown, and like his strength and endurance is very high level. You know, I don't think it'll be as easy for Islam to take him down and control him that way as everybody thinks it.
Yeah, 100%. And it almost reminds me of you when you went up to middleweight, right? Because people straight away were like, oh, he's coming from welterweight. I don't know if he's big enough for the division. And then you prove them wrong pretty quickly. And I almost feel like it's a similar thing where it's this David versus Goliath. Oh, he's not big enough kind of thing. Do you sort of see the parallels in it in any way?
No, not really, because well, because when I moved to middleweight, I made the whole change. So I went up there lifting weights, building my weight up, getting bigger, training heavier, with zero intention to come back. You know, if Volk does the same thing, it'll be a similar experience. But I'm sure he wants to defend the featherweight belt, and to do that, he can't, you know, spend the next 6 to 8 months just building strength, because you can't do that to go up a division and then only to lose it all when you come back down.
Yeah, 100%. All right, we'll get out of your hair, Rob. Just as we let you go, man, how do you see yourself getting it done against Paulo? What's the early pick, early prediction?
You know, I'm obviously, I am respecting and definitely not underestimating how good of a fighter he is, but I'm going to give everything in this preparation and camp to try and finish him. You know, and I say that every time, and I try to finish him every time, like, to my defense. But yeah, I want to put him away, and I don't want to be there for 15 minutes.
Is the secret juice on the line?
I don't need him, mate.
Well, okay, for a better label, if you win, Paulo has to get a better label on the secret juice.
No. I don't care.
By the way, Musashi has a nice juice that people can enjoy as well, and it's available at all stores. And guys, you can make sure to follow Rob at Rob Whittaker MMA, of course. Check out that Twitch party, man. See Rob's reaction to that main event coming up live, and of course he takes on Paulo Costa, UFC 284 in Perth, Feb 12th. That's 11th. For everybody else around the world, Rob Whittaker, man, thank you so much for joining us. As always, an honor and a pleasure. Thanks for joining us so early in the morning. We can't wait to see you in Perth in person, man. It's been a minute. Have a great, best of luck with the training camp.
It's been too long. Thanks for having me once again, guys.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate it. Bye.
See you later, guys.